Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Worldwide Ham Radio. Today's conversation is a real privilege. I'm joined by Otis, NP4G. He's the 2026 Dayton Hamvention Amateur of the Year. He's operated from around the world, led DXpeditions like Desecheo, and now helps make them possible for others as president of INDEXA. He's also a big part of the La Sierra Contest Club, a team that has built real camaraderie as they pursue contesting and DXpeditions from Puerto Rico. This episode is made possible by DXengineering, the trusted source for antennas, gear, and station solutions for DXers and contesters worldwide. Otis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. And finally, I get to be on your show. I mean, this is spectacular.
Well, I appreciate you coming on so quickly. And let's start at the top with this recognition at the Dayton Hamvention as the Amateur Radio Operator of the Year. How's that feel?
Yeah, man, that was great. I was actually I get the phone call from Michael Coulter, and this is the day after we come back from Desecheo, and I'm here at 6 p.m. I took a nap, and then I get phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. Pick it up. Hello, Otis. Yes, this is Michael Coulter from Hamvention. Yes, how are you? Good. You've been selected, Ham Radio of the Year. I'm like, oh my God. And he said, I'm not God, but close to it. but I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, you got recommended and you got this award. And I'm like, okay, but what have I done? I mean, I'm just enjoying radio, playing, having fun, and all of a sudden I get a call like that. So, I mean, there's people who got this award that have done things for years and years and years, and I'm basically a newcomer to this part of things.
Well, I think you're selling yourself a little bit short. If you look at, I did look at your QRZ page, and you've done some pretty amazing DXpeditions, as well as being very active in the local club. But before we get into any of that, when did you get first licensed, and why did you get that license?
So it's back when I was 16. So I'm in high school here, and actually it started. I used to play in a band with some friends and things like that. We went to one of these guys to practice, and he had a CB radio, handy-talkie, and I'm like, "What's that?" And he showed me. Turns it on, called somebody locally, and I'm like, "That's kind of cool." So I got my CB station, got that going, and one day I'm kind of bored of that. After 2 years, and I get somebody there that I'm talking to, and he says, I am a KP4. And usually people here in Puerto Rico, they're known as KP4. So, for the general public. So you say, radio amateur, they have no idea what you're talking about. If you say, oh, they're KP4s, then it's perfectly fine. So I said, yes. And he tells me about it. You get your license. He explains. And he says, okay, do you know English? And I said, yes. Okay. Do you have a Radio Shack nearby? And I said, yes. So I went over, buy the entry book. This is the phone number of the guy that gives out the exam. So I called him up. He said, come, we do exams on the last Saturday of the month in the University of Puerto Rico in San Juan. My dad took me over. I don't think I had my driver's license yet. And then passed my technician no code. I think that's what it was back then. My entry-level license. And from there it took off. So from there I went to graduate high school, went to Purdue University. Whiskey 9 Yankee Bravo, got to operate from there, enjoyed some activities from there, and then it took off from there. But actually, after Purdue, I was there for 2 years. I went to dental school. I didn't do much radio because you're busy doing learning about your profession and all that. So I took like a 4-year break. I missed that peak of the cycle right there. But right after, when I went back to the States to do my post-grad training, and it was biting me, and I was like, I gotta get to Dayton again. And going to Dayton, and then I remember being on the seminars and watching these people about adventures and going places and things like that, and it was kind of like surreal because I'm there. This is probably over 20 years ago, and here we are, after doing some trips and doing some really cool stuff. And I'm very happy about it. I think ham radio has given me more than I will ever give to ham radio, and that's kind of like how I live.
Well, as I said earlier, you've covered a lot of ground, but what was the thing that really got you attracted to ham radio? Was it the DX? Was it DXpeditions? What was it?
You know what? It was the ability to talk to somebody far away. Because I would remember when I was doing CB, you call and you listen to people all over the place. You might not want to include that part. But, talking to people far away and like we're talking right here. I mean, now we got, Facebook and internet. I mean, back then, the only way to talk to somebody far away was through radio. And that was what caught my attention. And then it just evolved like that. I remember, watching the groups and the expeditions and saying to myself, I can't wait to finish school so I could finally move home. And actually, I changed my call sign right before I moved back home in 2008. And that's when I got, my current call sign, NP4G, and I put a wire up there. I started calling CQ every night, talking to Europe, stuff like that. I met a bunch of local people, and then it just took off. I mean, that's how it's been.
So your DXpeditioning has taken you both on holiday style DXpeditions, but also some pretty serious ones like Bouvet. Tell me about the first serious DXpedition you got involved with and what that was like.
The first serious one must have been Bouvet. This is a very, very cool story. It's like a year before, and I'm here home, holidays, so you're December, middle of vacation, and I get a text from Ken, LA7GIA, and it was weird because it said, "Hey Otis, how's everything? How's work?" And when you text somebody, you don't do that. I mean, if I call in the phone, "Hey, how are you, Kevin?" But if I text you, I go straight to the point. "Hey, Kevin, what time?" So I'm like, "Yeah," caught me off guard. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, everything's fine. What's up?" And he's like, "How would you like to go to Bouvet?" And he says, "This much time, all that stuff." And I'm like, so tell me again how you doing this thing, So he spent an hour on the phone, and he said, we're going to do this, all the plans and everything. And I said, you know what, let me think about it. Yeah, sure, Otis, take a few days, that's fine. So I have to, get permission at home. So I'm thinking of it. I'm trying to process it. And I just finished reading a book that's called Die with Zero. And I don't know if you ever read that book, Kevin, Die with Zero. So basically it says, let's say you die and you left $1 million in the bank. That's $1 million worth of work and effort that you did not get to enjoy. So your goal in life is basically to die with zero. It means every effort you put into your life, it's everything you're going to get back. So I'm here, I'm 40 something, 41, and I got the time, I'm healthy enough, my kids are pretty much grown up already. So, it's kind of processing in my head. If I had not read that book, I would probably just say, you know what, Ken, thank you, I'm gone. So I go to my daughter first, and I said, Cecilia, they invited me to go to Antarctica. What do you say? And she's like, oh yeah, Dad, go for it. Okay, daughter, check. I go to my son, he's a little bit older. Hey, Gabriel, they want me to invite you to Antarctica. What do you say? Hey, man, go for it. So here comes the wife. This is the hard part. So I go with her. We're having a nice dinner. I have champagne. I'm trying to lubricate the situation here. And then I said, honey, you know what I told you the other day? I'm seriously considering it. And she didn't say no. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. So I said, okay. And, we started prepping, go to the gym, getting in shape. I was starting to take cold showers every day. You're in Maine, so Maine, it's pretty cold already. But here in the Caribbean, it's kind of hard to train for cold weather. So, we did all that, prepared myself, bought the gear. We went to Norway, to Svalbard to test the equipment, go on glaciers and stuff. And then, and that's when we did that expedition. So it was 54 days altogether. It was pretty long. Puerto Rico to UK, fly to South America, take a 2-week-long vessel, spend the island. We did, 10, 11 days or so, and then 10 days back to Cape Town. So it was 54 days, and it was very long. But it was fulfilling. And after that, after going through that, I figured, let me just do the hardest one first, and get that off my checklist, and then work my way down. And I don't know. That's kind of like how it goes.
That sounds like Max Friedman, N4ML, who's
he did the same thing exactly.
This is his very first DXpedition, and he's going to Bouvet. You guys
That's
are
right.
sharing that story.
No, I remember when I met him in Dayton last year, and we chatted for a while, and a couple of months later, they announced him, and I'm like, good job, man. You go get that one knocked off your list, and from there on, everything's just going to be a breeze.
So Otis, you mentioned your kids and your wife, but you also had a dental practice, so you shut that down for a month?
No, back then I had 4 very good friends, so they're orthodontists, and they covered me the office, and I prepped my staff. I prepped, hey, this is what's going to happen. I'll have no internet back then. We didn't know if we were going to have any Starlink. It was funny because when you back then you go to the Starlink website and you look at where is it available. And you could go to Bouvet and it would say spring of 2023. Okay, so you figured, maybe yes, maybe no. Because there's been some talks with Starlink people, but what happened was the war in Ukraine started, so they kind of stopped responding and they moved their satellites and stuff. So we brought the equipment, Adrian brought it. It worked in Chile. It worked in VP8, in Falklands. We're connecting through Chile. And then we sailed, 2 weeks, no internet until we got to the island. And it's funny because we're supposed to get there 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And I'm sleeping. Wake up call is 4 in the morning. We should be there. And then Ken jumps into my room at 3 in the morning. I was like, hey, Otis, wake up. What do you mean? We got Starlink. And I was, happy that, I was finally be able to catch up. But, 1 hour extra of sleep, it's no longer. So everybody got connected, trying to catch up with 2 weeks worth of stuff. I text my wife, FaceTime her, hey, I'm alive, that kind of stuff. And then and then after that, it was we were so addicted that I remember Peter, our guide, he basically told Adrian, hey, shut that off because these people are all distracted. They're gonna, get to their work. So we ended up, so they, at night they would put it back on. We'll catch up. But it was fantastic. I mean, and it's a great tool, and that's where we've been, from there on, Starlink has brought a new level of playing field for the expeditioning. I mean, interactivity. You did interviews with them. I mean, they're in the world's remotest island, and yet you're connected like if we're in the same room. It's just amazing.
So lots of questions, Otis, but one that comes to mind is I think people are going to be listening to this saying, what do I need to do to get that phone call? What did you do to set yourself up so that Ken would call and say, we'd like to invite you?
Yeah, 2017, I met Ken at Visalia, and I think he was like probably the only European at that meeting. And we chatted, just he's done some stuff. We got to know each other. And then when I emailed him, when he announced, I emailed him, hey, if you ever need a backup or something, think about me. And I really wasn't thinking he was going to be serious about it, but I guess he was. And then there was some slots that opened up, and he called me up. And it's just an opportunity of a lifetime. And I say, you have to say yes to ham radio. If they recruit you for a show like yours today, I say yes. If they want me to do a presentation in whatever, we say yes. If you need help doing whatever, we say yes. And I think that's how ham radio comes back to you and gives you so much more in return of what you can ever give.
One of my earliest interviews was with Adrian, K08SCA. And I think I asked him that very same question, like, how did you get into DXpeditions? And he gave me the same story. You show up, you go to Visalia, you go to Dayton, you meet people.
Yeah, and Adrian was funny. He did a talk last year because he wanted to go. Nobody would invite him. And then he gets a call from guys from Australia, and he shows up like 2 days later. I mean, what kind of commitment is that? And then it's like, if this guy's so serious about it, he shows up like within 48 hours. I mean, like he's a keeper. And I tell Adrian, after Bouvet, the first one, I'm like, if I ever go somewhere really, really bad, you're on my list. I'll definitely call you up and join us on this trip.
So Otis, I mentioned the La Sierra Contests Club in my intro. I know that's a very active club in Puerto Rico. I've actually interviewed a couple of the other members. You seem to have a lot going on, but you recently got back from Desecheo.
Desecheo has been a dream. When I just moved back home back in 2008. This is 6 months before the K5D expedition. And I remember, just learning enough CW to be able to, work them. And that was the first expedition that I worked. And, I had no idea that 17 years later, we would be leading another expedition over there. And this one's very special because it's the first Puerto Rican-led expedition since the first one, which was KP4AM back in 1978. So that's 48 years it took us to do it. And it's kind of, we're here, that's our DXCC entity. It's 30 miles off the coast. You could see it from here, from Puerto Rico on the west. And yet, you have people coming from all over the world to activate them, and we have not had the opportunity. So I figured, let's make it happen. So after Bouvet, I met with Vicens Amateur Radio Club. That's NP3VI. That's one of the islands on the East Coast. Met with them, and one of them was KP3DR, and I've known him. Wife's a dentist, so we have a relationship. I treated his kids, and he's basically coming back to ham radio from after the hurricane Maria in 17. And he said, yeah, Desecheo, I didn't know it was an entity. I've been there for work. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, and the director is Silmarie, and okay, let's get going. So we started, working with them. And then after a year of trying to navigate some patterns, then we basically have to go straight to Mrs. Padron, which is the director. And we had a meeting first, and I'll tell you, this is very good because I'm emailing her and telling about what we want, and I sent her an email, and I said, dear director, I am going to get on my car tomorrow morning, which is Friday, from San Juan. I'm going to go to Cabo Rojo, which is 2.5 hour drive, to hand deliver the application. And she was very, very busy lady, and I get a reply, and I said, dear Dr. Vicens, I'm actually going to be in San Juan, on Friday. And I said, great, you just saved me, 5 hours worth of driving. So I show up to their office, and, she didn't specify a time. I show in there, and I say, hi. She's like, well, I have a call now, and can you come back in about an hour? I said, sure, waited outside. And then I finally, sat down with her and, talked to her about our projects, talked to her about what we did in Juan Fernandez in 2024. And she knew about Juan Fernandez because her husband is also a biologist, and he has been to Juan Fernandez for biological work, the kind of preservation things that they do. So she understood, and then we went through the process, the application. I had consulted with a very, very good friend and mentor, Lou Dietrich. He's N2TU, and he actually, passed away, last year, unfortunately. So he had led some expeditions through, the permit process for fish and wildlife on the Pacific. And he basically told me, this is what's going to happen. They're going to say this, you're going to say that. So came to a point where we finally sent the application, and they reply with a no. Because they're thinking of an application like K5D. They went to their files, see what K5D was, because they weren't around. And, so it was K5D, basically, 2 weeks, 20 people, a fridge, fuel, a cook, that was like, daily trips to, bring gas, that was very, very intensive. And she obviously said no, but in the process, they have to give you an audience. So what we ended up doing, I called her up, hey, can we meet? Let's figure it out. And she was actually coming off to Vieques to do some work, and my office is, very close to the airport that you take to go over there. Let's meet in my office. So, she agreed. She went to my office. She's explaining, we cannot give you because of the, the preservation, and going over the details. And actually, what happens to be that when in 2017, the Fish and Wildlife through other island conservation and other NGOs, they've been trying to work to eradicate the invasive species of the island. So the rats, the birds, not the birds, but like lizards, things like that. So they finally in 2017 they declared the island free, and a lot of these species that were endemic to the area, they're basically flourishing. There's some birds, and I'm kind of sidetracking here, but there's this bird, I forgot the name, but it's basically flying at night, and they have set up a system where there's speakers that put the bird sound. So he's flying around and he hears his, my buddies are down there, so they actually go down. Hey, I'm here with my people, and they start nesting, and actually you go there on some rocks, they have mirrors, they have like little muck birds. So that process is working. So they will not allow anything to go back to the island that could basically hamper many years and a lot of money worth of effort. So here I am with the lady, we're talking, and I asked her, we cannot give you the permit because it's high impact and to the environment. And I said, well, Mrs. Padron, what would be a low impact operation? And she basically said, well, if nobody sleeps here, if nobody eats here, if nobody runs here, if you only go once. And I said, if we do that, would you be open to consider it? And she said yes. So I called my very good friend, HI3R, Desecheo, who's been working on some remote stuff. And I said, hey, buddy, you remember that thing you've been working on for the last 6 months? I think you need to speed it up because there's a pretty good chance it's going to happen. Okay, so we go back and forth, emails. They run their test compatibility. It's a lot of paperwork and things like that. And it goes through the process. It gets approved at the regional level in Atlanta. Then they put the announcement on the Desecheo website. If nobody says anything, it goes to the region. And then there were a lot of requirements, things like that. And at the end, they approved. And we're able to make this happen. It's actually supposed to be in 2025, but because of the government shutdown, it got pushed to 26, which is actually a good thing because 2026, it's 50 years since the designation of Desecheo as a national wildlife refuge. So, we're celebrating that on top of doing a great expedition.
So Otis, contesting. You're a member of the La Sierra Contest Club, and I know that you enjoy contesting. Tell me when you got started with contesting and why you did that.
Contesting, I liked it because you were able to work DX a lot faster. And I really enjoyed that part. I did some on my own at home, and then I think and then lately with Kike and the other guys. So, but I think my contesting highlight is being able to operate at K3LR, which is the super the biggest station in the world. So it's back then I remember we were doing the ARL Puerto Rico convention. I was part of the team, and then I had XC1KK. I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet Ramon, very nice guy. And he's like Yaru president, this guy's like all over the place. So we're driving to a site, and he's, where I'm hosting, and he says, Otis, how would you like to operate from K3LR in like 2 weeks? I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, because usually he'd be the one going there, and he said, I can't go it, and I told Tim, maybe if you'd be interested, and I said, yeah, sure. So give me 2 days, clear up my schedule. We go there, and that's been 14 years since that day. And I was just came back, 2 weeks ago from K3LR and operated the phone contest. And I seriously enjoy that a lot because, I'm away from home, I'm away from work, all of that. We're there for 3 days with a bunch of cool people, and we get to hang out, eat a lot of food, and share a lot of stories. And it's just, you can't beat that with remote, I tell you.
What other contests have you operated in recently?
So usually that one, because I'm very busy here at home with stuff. So that's why I like the expeditioning, because you can plan for it, but contesting, I mean, you need to put a lot of effort into building up your station and upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. It just takes a lot of time. So at K3LR, we just show up and operate, which I love. Which is very unusual. It's very, very unusual. Usually, people go there like, a few days before and start fixing stuff. But K3LR, I mean, the engineering at that station is just unbelievable.
So the other thing I noticed in looking at your QRZ page is the trip you took to St. Barts. And what really caught my eye was that you activated a Parks on the Air park. So that led me to POTA.app, and sure enough, you've activated a number of different parks and made a number of different QSOs. But then I dug a little bit further. You actually made nearly 4,000 QSOs from St. Bart's Park.
It was fun because I talked to James. I'm thinking about this, and we're basically looking at the map, trying to see if where I will be staying was within the boundaries, and that's actually like right there. So every queue would be park queue. And I basically spent a few days there with my wife and, vacationing, enjoying some radio, going to dinner, restaurants, enjoying ourselves over there. And it was fantastic, just the opportunity to provide the contact. And also the fact that St. Bart's, from among the Caribbean populated countries, it's the most wanted. So I think it's like number 115, something like that. So usually when people go there, it's a big deal. And I remember it was, I'm there one day, and I think it's my second day. And then I get an email I'm running whatever, HF, regular, 15 meters, whatever it was. And I get an email from friends and people from the States saying, hey, it's open to the Caribbean on 6 meters. And I'm like, okay, did you bring any 6-meter antenna? I said, well, I have a 80-meter dipole antenna. I think I can tune that. So I ended up tuning that thing. It worked for 6 meters, and here I am, working North America, working a bunch of friends, people that I know, and with an 80-meter antenna. So people at the end was like, "Man, your signal was strong. I mean, what kind of beam were you using?" I'm like, you know what? Not really a beam. It was just that tuned antenna. That kind of reminds me, in Desecheo, we had a very good opening on 6 meters, which was very, very unlikely. It was because of the solar storm that happened. So the next day, we had that opening, and you could see the propagation, working New England, working New York, and then going all the way to California. We worked like, 400 people, 500 people on that evening, and it was just amazing. I mean, because normally it's not seasoned for 6 meters, but it was just, the sun just gave us a little push right there when we actually needed it.
Was it difficult to get a license for St. Bart's?
No, it's reciprocal, so you don't have to do anything essentially. If you're a U.S. license, you just, Fox Juliet / in your name. So it's the same as operating from France and Europe. So it's not really complicated.
So Otis,
And actually, there was a direct flight from Puerto Rico, which made it even easier. So that was yeah. I mean, our flight. I told my wife, is like, I have bring your equipment, no problem. So she thought maybe I'll bring like a little wire antenna, one radio, and I brought like hex beam and amplifier and 2 radios, that kind of thing. So it was single up to radio operation.
Otis, what do you think about the future of ham radio?
I think the future is very bright. I think there's a lot of things coming, and the idea that we have to reinvent ourselves, whether it be contesting, DXing, emergency communications, all of that. And that's what's going to be able to, let us evolve and bring ham radio to the next level. You have a lot of people coming into the hobby, and thanks to programs like yours, where you get exposure to all this stuff. And I think that's where it's going to go. I mean, we're going to be able to experiment something very different from what, people 20, 30 years ago had as ham radio.
So I appreciate the optimism. What challenges do you think need to be overcome?
It's a matter of knowing what you really want to accomplish yourself as an amateur radio operator, whether it be, contesting, POTA, whatever. And you have to try to give it all your heart and all your effort. And that's going to bring it to the next level, because that's just going to be a way of people seeing what you're doing, enjoying what your ham radio is all about, making friends, and just it's extraordinary. I mean, this is a hobby, but not only a hobby, can become your lifestyle. And if there's a better hobby than this one, I definitely don't want to know about it. I mean, because this is just great. There's some really cool stuff happening.
Well, I got to say, my wife loves it because we get to travel to neat places. As long as I can bring my Pelican case with my radios, we're both loving it. And when I tell her about St. Barts, that's going to be on the list next, I'm sure.
Yeah, you were in VP5 the other day. I remember you were in Turks, right?
Well, actually, last year for the WPX and then recently in January for a short trip.
So next time you come from Maine, you come to Puerto Rico, we'll take you out to dinner. Then I'll take you to the airport. You take your flight there. Then you do your ham radio thing, and then you go back.
It's absolutely on my list.
But St. Bart's is very cool. There's a bunch of other people. And that's actually a lot of people from the States that own stations down here. So they come for contests. They spend, it's a lot of activity coming out from the Caribbean. I mean, it's a quick, direct flight from pretty much the East Coast anywhere in the U.S. So works pretty good.
Well, Otis, I appreciate you taking time tonight, and I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely, Kevin. My pleasure. Anytime. And I hope to see you at Dayton, and maybe we could share a beer and share some more stories. Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. This has been Q5 Ham Radio. I've been talking to the Dayton Hamvention Amateur Radio Operator of the Year, Otis NP4G. You'll see him in Dayton, 73.